Hey guys, Jake from Made for the Range here, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Doug Coors, who is the owner of Edel Golf. And you kind of had a sneaky buy, actually. Like, it wasn't super publicized, so we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so we're here at Edel headquarters in Denver, Colorado. Thankful to be here. Obviously, Edel has been a great partner for Made for the Range. I'm super excited about the partnership continuing through 2024. Last year, we did a lot with the irons. This year, now we have the brand new introduction of the Array lineup of putters.
Yes.
So we'll dive into that in a little bit here too. But give people just a little bit of background about yourself, maybe not the story leading into it, because I'll ask those questions as we go along, but kind of, where you're at now and just your evolution into golf and just a small background that way.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is fun. I don't do a lot of these, so it's actually enjoyable. So my background is, educated, got a degree in physics from Colorado School of Mines. Loved sports my whole life, and was always loved the challenge of sports and trying to figure stuff out. I got introduced to golf a while back, but right now, I now own a golf company called Edel Golf, and it's been such a great journey of discovery and finding things out that I wish I knew 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing too, just so we can get the obligatory question out of the way, you guys probably heard Doug Coors and immediately went to some Blue Mountains. So there is a family connection there. So just talk to us a little bit about growing up in that environment. I think obviously you probably learned a million things about business operation or what you were going to do in the future just through inherent learnings from the family. I know you worked in the business for a little bit, but not regularly for like a ton of time or something
a little different than that. So I worked in the family business pretty much my whole career. I was in the ceramic side of the business. So Our ceramics business is not particularly well known just because it's an industrial ceramics company. So we make product for aerospace, automotive, semiconductor businesses. I think there's like 23 universal codes of business and categories, and we do business in like 22 of them. So it's very, very broad, tons of different customers, very specific product that you wouldn't see in everyday life.
Okay, and that's Coors Tech, right?
That's Coors Tech, yes.
Okay. So what's the connection with Coors Tech to Coors Brewing, if anything? Or was it just something that, like, with your background and what you went to school for, it just made sense for you to enter that side of the business?
There's a lot of that. So the connection really is, the founder of the brewery, Adolf Coors, he was the entrepreneur, and he's the one that also invested in what is now Coors Tech, and it has been part of the brewery for 110, 15 years now or something like that. Wow. So it's been around a long time, the business, Coors Tech. The brewery is much more well known, and I spent one summer there working for them as a pipe fitter.
Okay.
And I was in the sewage treatment plant, so I got a lot of induction into how to sweat pipes, copper pipes, and how to cut with a torch, and it was a lot of fun. It was a tough learning experience as a young kid, but that was a really good way to get into what it is to work.
All right, so then trying to transition that over to golf, I saw somewhere that originally the club that you're at now, which is Rolling
Hills,
yeah. Okay, was like somehow an agreement was made between the Coors company and that land or something, and they built that golf course. What's the story behind that? Because I think that's a really cool connection.
Yeah, so I don't know all the details, but Coors had land around the area in Golden, and they basically leased a plot of land to a group that wanted to build a golf course, and then helped them build the golf course. And that golf course, original one, is called Applewood now. It's in Golden as well.
Okay.
And then I don't know exactly how many years, 55 to 68. So 13 years later, there was another piece of land that the country club wanted to move on to.
Okay.
And so that was built, I think, starting in 1968 and opened in 71, somewhere in that area. And that was also built on Coors property. And there's this was happening back in the day more, I think, than now. But it was a 99-year lease for $1 a year. So,
Wow. Holy cow.
so the club got the benefits of having a nice piece of land and operate an amazing club. And it's a great little gym west of Denver. It's an amazing course.
I'd hate to be the one that has to renegotiate that contract when it comes up.
Well, it's so the club bought the land about 10 years ago now.
Okay.
And so it's all been settled out. So
Awesome.
it's been wonderful.
Okay. So then talking about your upbringing through golf, because obviously you're deep in the trenches now, which we'll get to in a second with the craziness of the golf industry, which we all know is very different from the inside than it is from the outside. But you've played golf your whole life. I know you have a friendship story with Craig Canada, or Canada was the right way to say it. And I also heard a fun story with Lee Trevino. You want to tell my listeners that same story?
I can. It's a long one. I'll tell the short version.
Okay.
So I was in Las Vegas at TPC. It wasn't TPC Summerlin. It was the Badlands course across the way, but it was the Senior Classic out in Vegas. And I got to meet Jim Colbert and Tom Jenkins and Jim Albus and Hale Irwin, and ended up I was playing with Jim Colbert, and I was on I think it was the 17th hole, because I think we started on 10. No, the 18th hole at the Badlands, and Jim hadn't played well on the front. I think I might have been beating him or tied with him.
And this is in a Pro-Am for the tournament?
Pro-Am. Okay. And of course I had the advantage of being up a few tees.
Sure.
So he hits his drive on 18, and then the three guys that I'm playing with hit their drive, and I'm kind of waiting around. And the green's 330 or 40 yards away, I don't know, but it was all downhill, downwind. And I was sitting there waiting, and Colbert's like, just hit the ball. I'm like, okay, you say so.
You said it, yeah.
And I did, and I crushed the best drive probably I can remember in my life, and it flies a bunker, lands on the downhill slope, and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls right between Lee Trevino's legs. And as he's trying to make a putt. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is like the worst piece of golf etiquette that I could ever.
Yeah, did you ride away and just turn to the other guys and be like, no, they told me I could hit. Like I was waiting.
I was completely embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. And Lee Trevino took his cap off and his putter and put his cap on top of the putter and waved it like a surrender flag. And I'll never forget that moment, obviously. But then I saw him on number 1 or 10, I can't remember, but it was a par 3, and there was a big backup. And so I went up to Mr. Trevino. I just said, listen, I am so sorry that I hit into you. I didn't really mean to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to put anyone under the bus.
Yeah,
So
no
it's
kidding, yeah.
I'm like, I am so sorry. And he said, did you make the putt? And I was like, no, I missed it by a foot. But all he cared about was whether I made the putt or not, which was super cool. It wasn't really.
Well, that's one of those things though, right? It's like, if you drive the green on a par 4, it's more of a like say sorry than a feel bad about it, because it just doesn't happen that often. Well, and especially when you have pros telling you to hit the ball, right? Like that's not really on you in that situation.
But I knew I could reach the green.
Yeah, but I don't know. The pressure in that situation of a pro being like, dude, hurry up, hit the ball, and knowing that you also have to take that swing knowing that if you don't get it there, then you're that guy. That waited and didn't get it there. So it's good that you got it there. Let's talk about that, because we know plenty of those people, right? Like you're waiting for 5 minutes on a par 5 and you hit the ball 220 instead of the 270.
I've done that more often than I've hit it striped down the middle for sure.
All right, so moving in then, what was your introduction from that point on of getting into the geeky side of golf with the tech, with equipment and that stuff? How long did that transition take? Was it up until the point that you met David for the first time, or was there like a gradual increase in your interest in the equipment side of this game?
Yeah, I would say I knew what I liked. I was good enough to know when I went and either got fit or hit a club whether I liked it or didn't like it. And I could tell right away if this was going to be something for me. But I didn't know why. I didn't really investigate why.
Okay.
I didn't even, I wasn't really an equipment junkie. But I loved hitting other people's clubs and seeing differences. And I'm playing around with different equipment. And like you said, you mentioned Craig Canada. He's the one that really taught me golf. And he taught me so many different shots, you know, bunker shots, greenside shots, you name it. He would, you know, as a 7th grader, he was super good, and I got to hang out and learn golf from him.
That's awesome.
So always passionate about golf, but didn't really know much about it. And then, I met David, and I was helping a friend out, and I got to meet David. He put me through a fitting. I aimed my putter 8 inches left of the cup from 6 feet. And I was like, that's interesting. I didn't really think much of it, right? I was like, well, that's interesting. And then he proceeded to put me through his putter fitting and got me to where I was aimed, you know, at the hole.
Yeah.
And in the back of my head, I was like, I was doing this for a friend. So I'm like, this is cool. There's got to be some sort of psychological trick that he put me through.
Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair.
I was just like, okay, he, you know, he's messing with my mind. Great. Now I can aim up at the hole. What happens now? Like, where does it go after that? Yeah. And then he did the speed check and test to the string, and I had a putter at that point that I'd never had.
Yeah. So what did you originally get fit into your first time?
I got to fit into a torque balance. I believe it was an E2.
Okay, wow.
Which is that slight, it's like a blade with a slight arc on the back.
Yeah. More of a mid-mallet shape.
Mid-mallet shape, and interestingly enough, he had asked me, you know, if I had a preference, and I was really opposed to mallets.
Huh. Just because of
my whole life.
The visuals, the size, or just a psychological?
Just psychological. I kind of always liked the mid-mallet style.
Okay.
I wasn't a big, you know, super skinny blade guy, and I didn't like the big bulky heads on the end of the putter.
And this was how long ago?
This was back in 2015, I believe.
Okay, so this was actually like
8 years ago.
This was right
9 years ago
before the kind of tour boom of mallets happened.
Yes,
because it was 2015. That was like right when Spider got introduced, or well, the Spider that everybody talks about got introduced. There was ones before that, but that was like right when that became a real thing, because that was the year of DJ hitting it off for majors, and then Jason Day won with the Itsy Bitsy, and like then mallets started to really take place. So there was probably no mindset even to put somebody into a mallet. So people were probably really fresh in their brains going into fittings, being put into those even mid-mallet shapes. I don't think it was in the back of people's heads to do that in the first place.
Well, I just knew I didn't have a preference for it, so I just told him what I would prefer, and he fit me into the E2. It was a much heavier putter than I'd ever had, but it was most of the ways in the handle. I proceeded to take that putter and putt as good as I've ever putted in my entire life. I always thought I was a pretty decent putter, but this was a different level.
Changed things?
It changed things.
Okay. And then I saw somewhere that you, like, there was a moment of questioning, I guess, where you went and you got refit, because you were like, well, maybe he did some sort of mental thing. This wasn't really about the putter. Then you went and got refit, and you got fit into the exact same putter by a completely different person who had no idea that you were connected to Edel in any way, shape, or form. Is that story true?
I think it's somewhat true.
Okay.
So what had happened if you go back 25 years, I went to Yes Putters. They were in Denver.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I got fit into what there at the time was their mallet, which is about a mid-mallet shaped putter. And I got fit into a backset hosel.
Wow.
25 years ago.
Yeah, which is not super common.
It's not common. It's not common at all. And I actually thought it was so ugly, and I was so prideful that I could just do this on my own, that I just said, no, I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
And I got fit in the same putter. The E2 was a preference.
Yeah.
And so then I challenged him. I said, okay, I want to be fit into a putter that doesn't have a line on it.
Oh, okay.
So my E2 had a line on the top, which helped me aim more right.
Yeah.
And so I went through the whole thing, got fit into a backset mallet with no line.
And that was just because of the combination of, like, before with the line, you were better in that shape because of visual aiming preferences.
Yes.
And then to take that line away, they had to do something to compensate for your aiming preference, and they did that with the new shape and nozzle selection.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when it really, I mean, it hit me when I first started putting great with the putter David made for me. And then I went through a period of super high expectations and the yips.
Okay.
And so I became desperate again.
Sure. So when you were originally going out to see David, you said you were doing it for a friend. That was a consultation because somebody else wanted to buy the company. Is that correct?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a gentleman interested in, I don't know if it was buying, but investing in Edel Golf, and I have a background in manufacturing through Coors Tech. So
sure.
Been around all kinds of manufacturing and assembly and things like that. Not in the golf world, but in other worlds.
Yeah. So then how did we get from you helping somebody else invest or buy the company to you buying the company?
Well, like I said, that was 2015. So 5 years had transpired really before I bought the company. And I had such a love for what David had shared with me, what I got to learn through him, and the experience I got. So I got fit into the putter several times, ended up with the same thing. I didn't want a line, so now I'm a mallet guy.
Okay.
Because if I don't have a mallet, I can't get it far enough right to aim at the hole.
Yep.
And then single length irons, which were just amazing clubs. They are incredible clubs.
Yep. Are you playing single length right now?
I did for 4 years.
Wow.
And right now I'm playing the SMS Pro.
Okay. In just standard cut lengths?
Standard lengths, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, because it can get actually, I had this conversation with somebody like literally just the other day that's a fitter at one of the local retailers, and he was saying he actually uses the SMS for one length builds quite a bit because of what you can do with the weights. Like that's it's such an easy way to do that. You don't have to smack a bunch of lead tape. I hate loading up hosels with either tip weights or tungsten or what. Like I just don't like to do that. And that's I mean, that's a CG story. Like when you move too much weight up into the hosel, you're shifting the CG way over there. And at that point, you might as well keep the CG in the head with a heavier weight in the heel of the SMS iron, which is like the fact that somebody finally did that for everybody was so great. But moving from you or from David being in control to you buying the company, and now you've moved the company to Denver.
Yes.
I know that the Texas facility still exists and there's still some manufacturing that happens out of there. Is that right?
Yeah, we have our machine shop there. We actually call it our machine shop location.
Okay.
We have a fitting studio there. We have a club builder and machinist, and we do just amazing work out of there. And a lot of our R&D collaboration is through that shop.
And public people you can walk into that location and go get fit.
You can.
Or
we,
make an
we
appointment.
appreciate if you make an appointment.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So then, talking about the DNA of Edel used to be, I would call it a little bit more unique than it is at the moment, because there was the toe-up designs. The EAS was like such a specialty fit. And now with the introduction of the Array stuff, you guys have moved more into, I don't want to call it mainstream because it's still very different, but you guys have kind of structured a little bit differently into maybe a more friendly fit that still has all the tech and DNA that Edel is known for. So can you talk about that transition? Because that has happened since you got in, with Array being kind of the first giant release, I guess. Like I guess SMS irons were under you too, but that was still probably during the transition phase a little bit of
Yes. Yeah, the SMS had started just prior to me getting fully involved with it.
Okay. So then, so let's talk about Array a little bit, and then that transition from EAS into Array. Obviously, you guys know I've talked about the Fit Kit. I think I've posted 6 out of 7 days a week this week about the Array Fit Kit. We're hot on the heels as of filming this of the release of that. So
yes,
which has gone incredibly well. I know I've gotten messages and texts from other people in the industry that are super impressed by it. So what's the lead up in that? What's the decisions internally to go from what EAS was and how, niche, unique is, I don't even think that accurately describes what that putter lineup was, because it was so singled to Edel, right? Like there was nobody doing that stuff, to now carrying over the tradition of what Edel does, the technology that Edel uses, and incorporating that into what's now like such an easy fit.
Yeah, I think it's really honestly based on feedback from our customers.
Okay.
It really is. It started with, trying to expand and grow the company, and having not the EAS system is great, but it takes a lot to become proficient with.
Sure.
It's probably the most, I don't know, it's probably the most amazing fitting system out there. And there were probably prior ones that David did that had even more adjustability.
Oh, I bet the EAS was toned down from what it used to be. Yeah,
it was super simple compared to what it was before. And it really wasn't, to grow our company, really, it was going to be very difficult to get enough momentum behind this exact fit and how it works. And so we got a lot of feedback from our customers, and feedback from players and customers that suggested that maybe torque balance isn't for everyone.
Okay.
I think it's an amazing, I still have my torque balance putter. Yeah. I love it. But it isn't maybe for everyone. So we had to look at, do we want to stick 100% with torque balance, or do we want to start seeing if there's a market out there for Edel with non-torque balance putters that frankly probably 98 to 99% of people use. Yeah. And they're used to. And you put a torque balance in players' hands, and some of them, they think it's amazing, and some of them are like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. And so it's really just all this feedback. And the only way we could kind of accommodate all that was to come up with this adjustable system with different hosels, different head weights. So we still have all the complexity that you have in the EAS system, with the simplification down to, 3 kind of modern mallet shapes, a few different alignment plates, and different hosels. And that can accommodate. A lot of people fit with a Sam Lab, or they fit with some other watching the stroke swing, or whether it's a Quintec or a TrackMan or GC Quad or any of that stuff. Our system wasn't necessarily designed to fit in those systems. Okay. So we knew to grow, we had to have a system that would fit into those fitting systems. Gotcha. And we did a lot of work, and a lot of work with design, and coming up with something that could be fit in many different ways. Yeah. So what's great for the fitter now is that they can take this array system and fit it how they are comfortable fitting somebody in a putter.
Yeah, it's super easy. And what's funny is I've actually never done the aim bias test thing with the laser. We're going to do it after this over at Golf Tech HQ. So I've never done it. But I don't think I've ever played a putter for more than 2 weeks. So it wouldn't make a difference for me. But going through that process, I think, is really cool. And then that fit kit, I'm pretty sure. So Blake, who is my marketing contact at Edel, is right over there. And I think that when I opened that box, I texted him and I was like, wait, is this it? And he texted me back. He's like, open the box. And I opened it. And I was like, holy cow. Like, this is so cool that everything fits in this. And the one thing I will say, so there's one other system that's similar on the market. But the way that I think Edel has done such a good job with this new, more modern, more accessible, much easier to fit, also way quicker to fit system is those alignment plates. Edel has always been about aim, and that's not changed. That is still 100% the DNA of this entire lineup, of the fit kit, of everything that you can purchase component-wise for this kit, is all based around making sure that somebody is aimed square towards the hole, and then from there, put a decent stroke on it, and you're going to probably save a couple of putts around. Yes. And I think that is really cool. My first question, I believe, was, why are there 2 blank slots in this kit? And then I immediately was like, okay, wait, if there's 2 blank slots, that means that there might be stuff in the future. And then I right away fired off a bunch of texts to people. And I was like, okay, there's 2 blank slots. What else are you going to put on one of these plates? What's going to ship soon? I was like, can I have it early? And I think that part's cool though, right? Like, even with the face being its own thing, you guys could potentially do R&D and you come up with some new face structure, and all you have to send to all these fitters is a new faceplate, or a new shape on the back, or a new alignment plate, and they just add it into their fit kit and nothing has to change, which is I'm not going to call it future proof, because there's always going to be things that take on a new blood, but like, that is so cool that for at least the foreseeable future, the expandability of this kit is kind of indefinite. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yes, and actually EAS is somewhat that way too. We had a little drawer that you put all those putters in, and there was a blank space there too.
Yeah, the big red cart. Yeah,
and so that the third or the fifth shape there hasn't materialized yet, I will say.
Okay, that's good to know.
And yes, it again, all of that input, all that feedback we got was, okay, what do we do? We have this what we thought was phenomenal, great red toolbox that we put out there, and it was phenomenal.
It absolutely was,
but it didn't satisfy everybody. There were complications with it. There was all kinds of time going into building a putter and putting it together for somebody, and then seeing if they could aim it or not aim it, or if it worked for them. There was a lot of upfront investment by the fitter to get somebody to even get at the table to try an Edel putter. And so we designed that out of it. We designed everything, all the feedback into it, and still allowed for everything that we currently do with the EAS.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is obviously having the experience I have at one of the fitting companies and now doing everything with Golf Tech is I used to give fitters a lot of crap for being what I call lazy. And then I realized, well, at the end of the day, it is their job. They need to get enough out of that job to live their lives. And time is the most important thing to them. They want to be, and with a consumer too. I mean, if you're looking for options as a consumer, it's really hard to go in with the red kit and dedicate to an Edel putter fit, because that's essentially what you do. If you booked a putter fitting and you wanted to test the Edel stuff, you would have to, the whole fitting would have to be with the Edel system, which would be very beneficial for that person, but that's not everybody's drive, right? A lot of people go to a fitting because they just want to test a bunch of stuff. They're honestly there more for a guided demo than they are an actual fitting, which is a whole topic in itself. But now with Array, you can just so easily go through things, and it saves the consumer a ton of time. And I also, the side benefit to me with Array too is, so I have a lot of really close relationships with shaft companies. I'm a big shaft geek, and getting into putter shafts with BGT has been huge. I also do a lot of stuff with the KBS putter shafts, MMT putter shafts. And I think that one of the cooler things that isn't being necessarily like expanded on at the moment is using something like the Edel kit to also fit putter shafts, which does two things. It gives the Edel kit more time because the shafts are going to be in those heads, but it also gives those shaft manufacturers a better chance, because I know for a fact that if a putter shaft company sends fitting demos to a store, it gets built up in whatever the latest Scotty Cameron Phantom is, and if somebody doesn't want to hit that putter, they don't ever hit that shaft. So those putter shaft companies struggle to get their stuff fit because there's no demos for them. But when I can unscrew a hosel and screw a new one in with a shaft, whether somebody was getting fit for the Edel stuff or not, now that person has a touch point with Array because they're using it because they could switch out the hosel, which is really cool. Like I said, the expandability of that fit kit is incredible, and there's so many avenues in my head of like different things that could happen.
Oh, it's fun. It's in ours too. And we, part of the feedback we got was, we only had one shaft. We had we had 3 different bins, but they're all double bin shafts. And so there was not an offering for any kind of shaft variations. Now we can cut and paste, to make any shaft someone wanted, but the connection to the club was already preset with the
because the shafts
double
were
bend.
already glued when the adapter was up the shaft instead of in or at the hosel level.
So we could, our guys get really creative and figure out how to do, put a BGT shaft in something, but it's not something that we can, spread throughout. If somebody really wants it, we do it.
Yeah.
But now we have all the hosels. You can build whatever you want.
Takes 5 minutes. Yeah, it's so cool. The other thing with that is the expandability of it, to me, leads a lot of directions, right? Like, you guys still own that manufacturing facility. So to me, that means like, okay, what if there was a limited edition of something for a big tournament that comes in the spring, or something like that, or like holiday stuff, or just, messing around with color palettes, or messing around with new alignment plates. And I think the other cool thing that we haven't talked about yet is consumers can order those. Like you're not stuck with whatever you get. Like I know I was talking to the guys here earlier, and they said there's tons of orders coming through where somebody ordered one of the Array mounts and they ordered 2 extra alignment plates because that person just within themselves at home wants to tinker around, because a lot of us exist.
Well, that's another great thing about this kit is it can be a tinkerer's dream, right?
Oh, it is, yeah.
And we're going to save you a lot of money on putters, because if you have to change every 2 weeks, then you can just use our system.
Yeah. I think since I got the kit, it was late for us outside of Chicago. Like we got shut down golf wise, but I believe I used all of the shapes for at least a round. And then I switched out the alignment plates on the F2 like 4 times. But to me, it was, from a testing perspective, that makes it really easy on us. Like those of us that write about gear and cover stuff like that, makes it super easy. But it also, like, it was just fun, right? Like handicaps were turned off by that point, so I didn't care. I was like, I'll shoot whatever I shoot. If I'm aiming this completely wrong, then whatever. I don't have to post this. But the ability to tinker with that, and I've talked to other guys in the industry that are similar to me, right? Guys like Ryan Brath or Ryan Knudsen from WRX. Like all 3 of us have talked about just we sit there and we just switch on alignment plates and just look at stuff. Like just while we're it becomes like a fidget toy basically on our desks because we all have the heads of the alignment plates. So moving through there, we haven't touched on the irons at all. So last year, the partnership made for the range was for irons and wedges. Obviously, the wedges have been around for a long time, and then taking that tech and putting them into the irons. If we want to just touch on those a little bit, because I love those irons. I think the SMS to me is actually more of a muscle cavity than a cavity back. I think it's I've told a lot of guys here, and I think this is maybe not a pipe dream, but a dream. I wish something existed between SMS and SMS Pro. The same way I wish that TaylorMade would re-release the P760 so that there's something between the 770 and the MC. But talk a little bit about the SMS evolution. Obviously, you play SMS. I've seen some funny stories. Like I've seen some scratch golfers turn into shankopotamus guys by putting that weight in the wrong spot.
Oh yeah.
And then I've seen the opposite, right? You take a guy that can't hit the center of the face and you move that weight. So talk to us a little bit about that fitting process, and then just maybe if there is an evolution that may ever happen to those irons, what that might be.
Yes. So SMS, I'm with you. It's my favorite iron I've ever hit. I'm biased, of course, but at the same time, previous to that was my single lengths, which was my favorite iron I ever hit.
Which was before you were here, so you already...
Before that, I had some pings that I thought were really good, and I had them for about 10 years, and I went through a period of not playing a ton of golf, and I got them back out, and I was just like, oh no, what is going on? And that's what prompted me to switch to single length, because I wasn't hitting the ball well anyway, so I'm like, well, why not try this whole single length idea? So the SMS iron was... the task there was, let's develop an iron that our team would want to play.
Okay.
Right. We've got some pretty accomplished golfers. I don't consider myself amongst those, but I am, a 3 handicap. Probably actually closer to a 5, but
you're a good golfer.
I'm a good golfer.
We can just say that. Yeah,
I can hit a golf ball on occasion. I can hit it pretty good.
Yeah, we don't have to be plus handicaps to say we're good golfers. We're still in the top 0.5% of the world of golfers or something like that, right?
Thanks for reminding me that. I always. It must be a golfer mentality. You always have to be that a little bit better than you were, but that's what we cater to. And so we designed the SMS iron around what would we want to play. With the feature of the movable weights in it. Yeah. And then the SMS Pro folds right behind that. Oddly enough, I played the SMS for quite a while. When the Pro came out, I measured myself with the SMS versus the Pro, and I'm a pretty steep swinger.
Yeah.
And I actually had better head speed with the Pro.
Did that tri-sole just really help you out? So it's so funny you say that, because I, at the previous company, we did videos about the SMS stuff, and we tested the Pro versus the hollow body back to back, and I saw the same thing, and I looked up and I was like, we sure this is right? Because this should not be, like, if you put these two down next to each other, this should not be happening. And he said right away, he's like, dude, you're 5.5, 6 down. That tri-sole is just gliding through.
Yeah, it
turf.
Really pushes it through. Yeah. And I was like a 1.5 hour faster.
Yeah.
Through the turf with the Pro. But that's because of that, right? So again, we're taking the feedback that we've gotten on these clubs, and we're going to tweak the design obviously in the future and roll new stuff out. What we do know is that the weighting system really works and helps a ton of people.
Yeah. Well, and you can see it in 10 shots too. I mean, if you move the weight, if you put it in the toe, you hit 3 shots. You put it in the middle, you hit 3 shots. You put it in the heel, hit 3 shots. You will see a difference on your launch monitor. Like it's not, no matter how good of a player you are, no matter how well you can strike the ball, like you will 100% see a difference. Now, whether that difference ends up being your differentiator or not is up to the player and the fit and other obstacles. But like, you will see a difference between those 9 shots. It's wild.
It's crazy. Yeah, and you will see it.
It's so hard to describe to people, and I tell people all the time, like, look, you just got to go do it. Like, I've seen guys, again, I've seen plus handicaps turn into like 10s because they put the weight in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it's mentioning that. It's so neat, I think, when you go out and you know, you take even a really good player and you can mess with them and put the weight in a funny spot. And to see... we had a golfer, very accomplished golf pro, come out and hit the ball, and we decided to mess with the weight a little bit, and he actually shanked it. He said, "I have not hit a shank in 20 years." What the heck did you do?
Yeah, because it can change your club path, it changes your delivery quite a bit. Like it changes your face closure rate, which is probably the most easy to talk about aspect of the weight, just because of, like, we all know how clubs turn through impact and stuff. If you put heavy weight in that side, it'll slow it down. I think Edel aligns more towards what I usually tell people. So I always use weight as a CG story of wherever you're hitting the ball is actually where I want you to put the weight. Because if you're somebody that's coming out of the toe, the more weight I can put behind that strike, the better that strike is going to end up being. Like, let's not worry about, 8, 9 handicaps hitting the exact center of the club face. If you're a little bit towards the toe, let's just give you some more support in the toe and let's throw that weight out there. Now that, that's player dependent, doesn't work for everybody, but that's usually where I line myself up with that. It's the CG story is so cool. And that leads me into, so my SMS Pro set is, I actually have, what did we end up in? 848? Is that right? Yeah. So I have a lot of weight in my heads. I built half-inch short, and those ones have light shafts in them. But yeah, I think my thing ended up being 848 because I took a perimeter approach. So my SMS Pros, I've told people, like, this is totally probably not true. I bet you my SMS Pros are the most forgiving SMS Pros that are built currently in all production of SMS Pros.
Well, what's interesting is you never think a cavity back is a forgiving club.
No.
But it can be.
Yeah.
Forgiving to me is, can you square the face up at impact and hit it somewhere near the center?
Yeah, the stability of those heads that I have now with that weight package is crazy. And it's a good point for people. And it's honestly, it's the same thing with the Array kit, right? Like there's 5 grams up to 25 grams in those putter head weights. And not the most common thing in the world, but you don't have to keep those weights the same across the head, FYI. It's not common that people don't, but you don't have to, just so everybody knows. And, I did the same thing. Like the stock configuration for an SMS is 1 heavyweight, 2 lightweights. And I'm just sitting there. I think it might have been a discussion I had with Ryan Barath, actually. And I was like, man, I wonder what's going to happen if I just take 2 of these 8s and put them to the edges. And then the first time I went and played with those, it never felt like I missed the whole round that I played because of how incredibly stable that head became. And the tri-sole helps me quite a bit, especially outside with real grass. But the stability of that in the weight package was really, really cool to see. I think I've gotten a couple people to order their irons like that actually too. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's been fun.
That's what it's for, and that's what Edel's about, right? Is we're about the golfer. And if you want 848 or, unfortunately we don't have like 20 grams that you can move around in there. But yeah, that's what it's about, right? And you go get fit for your clubs. You get a good shaft. You can mess around with the weights a little bit and dial that in even more. And you see different trajectories, different ball spin directions and height and distance and everything else.
Yeah, I know people too, like myself included. Again, I'm a weirdo, so I mess with all my gear. But like, I have my weight configuration in my 4, 5, and 6 are different than my weight configuration 7, 8, 9 pitch. Like, that's the other thing that I think, I don't want to say went over people's heads, but it became a realization after people just started doing it on their own of like, well, if I can't close my 5 iron as much as I want to, I'm going to put that weight in the heel and then let it work its magic as I hit it out of the heel and hopefully hit the ball straighter, because a lot of people have a tendency that if they're drawing their short irons, they tend to either go straight or hit a slight cut with their longer irons just because it's harder to hit. Or a lot of people just play with swing weight, right? They want their pitch 9 to be D5 and their 8, 7, 6 D4, and then they go D2 and anything above that. And you can do that just by screwing out a weight and screwing in a new one, and it doesn't change the properties of that at all. It's just you're doing it for a swing weight purpose, but you still get the same CG, you still get the same placement. It's just lowering the head weight without having to mess with tip weights in the hosel, which is a builder's dream, basically. And it's so much easier to fit that way too, because you don't have to worry about what you're doing in the build process and how that's going to affect the clubs after.
Yeah, it does, and it all matters, right? And so that's the, I guess, the message to the golfer is all this matters. If you think it's just you that can't hit your clubs or your 5 iron or whatever, it's probably because that particular club just isn't suited for you.
Yeah, it's not working for you. I've told a lot of people, you have to treat, everybody treats the iron set as a set, but with something like SMS or, with somebody that cares enough about it, you should treat every iron as its own individual tool. It should be, that thing has to do a job for you at the given time that you need it to do that job. And if it doesn't, you need to find something else that does.
I think we all have, one club that we know really well and we rely on. And the idea of SMS is you can get more of those clubs in your bag.
Yeah. All right, so then before we wrap up here, give us a little glimpse into where the company is at now as far as like future direction, some things that might happen long-term down the road that are being thought of, maybe some short-term plans that are coming up for this year. Just, anything you can give us insight-wise, any little peaks or anything like that.
Oh, sure. So, this year, especially the spring, is all about the Array line.
Yeah.
The SMS and SMS Pro continue to gain traction and continue to grow. We're excited about that. We do have plans for other, iron products in the near future. Of course, those things take time to fully develop, but but we do have. I think we're going to bring a better, easier fitting way with the SMS going forward. So you can kind of look forward to something similar to what we did between EAS and Array, of what we're going to do.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Forward. So we're excited about that, because that anything to simplify it, but also make it as impactful and adjustable as that we have is what we're all about. So that's where we're headed, to simplify the irons as well. And like you said, with putters, I think there's opportunities for special runs and all kinds of stuff that we can do, which we're excited about, and that'll just unfold as it unfolds. We're just not nothing particular right now. It was kind of all hands on deck to get Array out, out there. So we had to shelve those distractive plans that are so fun to think about and talk about for a few months. But it does set a platform up for us so that we can bring a lot of unique product to the market now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's so many different rabbit holes I could go down with like ideas for expanding the Array lineup, and I'm sure that there's probably going to be a couple spark moments, I would imagine, throughout the next couple of years of somebody's going to have that moment where they're, driving in the car and they forgot to turn their music on, and all of a sudden they come up with a new idea to throw on Array and somebody gets it done. I also think that like one of the cool things I could see happening is a lot of these like really famous coaches and stuff that are working with players, and I think Logan Olson's a great example, right? Of him getting bought out by TaylorMade. just because of the uniqueness of what he was doing. TaylorMade also wants a name similar to Scotty, but separate issue. And, you know, but that was based on a lot of feedback from those coaches. Like Scotty Scheffler, the world's number one golfer, was also the world's worst putter. And there was like this big thing for him to figure out what was going on. And the connection made through his coach and through Logan has obviously now helped Scotty. Now we've got Nelly in those putters. And I think that the coaching aspect of our game is getting a lot more popular because we have guys like George Gankis or Cameron McCormick who make a lot of content now. And they're starting to have more insight into development for stuff. I could see, you know, within the next couple of years, even if it's just a new alignment plate, like one of the big coaches or something saying like, hey, you know, I would really love to test out this alignment for this player, and boom, now we have a new alignment plate that everybody can use, and all we had to do was just take the old one off, put the new one on. So, yeah, unless there's anything else you want to touch on or anything I missed.
No, I'll just tell you, I don't have the same weights in the heel and toe of my array putter.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that is it's not a common thing, but I think it's not a common thing because people, it's just not a thought, right? Like, I think if more people experimented with that, it would actually become more common because you can slightly alter the toe hang of a putter, A, by doing that, but B, you can just, again, it's a mass support thing and that's a huge speed control thing to move weight across the putter. Yeah, that's a separate rabbit hole we could get into, but yeah, so there you go. The owner of the company doesn't play identical weights in his array putter. And what shape are you in for array?
I'm in the F3.
You're in the F3, what alignment plate?
I have no lines on my line.
So you're blank? Okay.
Blank,
oh yeah, we talked about it earlier.
Yeah,
blank.
And I have a back set slant neck hosel.
So you've stuck with that. You're still...
It works. It's what I aim the best, and I cannot go... Well, I'll go out and play a casual round, you know, on vacation or something, and I rent clubs because I don't want to take my clubs everywhere. If I'm just going to... If I don't play if I'm not playing more than 2 times, I pretty much rent.
Sure.
And inevitably I get a putter that I don't aim well. Yeah. And I'll have to go to the putting green, and I'll have to set a 15-foot putt out and hit it and find out how far left of the hole it ends up before I go play my rounds.
That's fair. At least you calibrate yourself before you play, though. That's nice.
I do that with weights too. Yeah, on the putter. It makes a big difference.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for letting me bug you for a little bit here.
No,
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited.
Yeah, this will be episode 2 of the podcast for 2024. So we're working through some things. I'm hoping this comes out well, but it'll be a nice episode. For everybody watching, I have no idea if you can listen to this on Spotify or other places or not, to be honest with you. So if you're watching this, you saw it on YouTube, and that's great. Have no idea how I'm going to get to those other places yet, but we're going to figure it out.
Awesome.
Thank you again, too. Obviously, the partnership with Made for the Range is huge. I really appreciate it. I'm excited that we've moved into putters this year and that we're using the array lineup just because I got so... Like, you can ask Blake how many texts I've sent him since I got that kit. Like, it's crazy. Like, just the thoughts that come out of it, the tinkering that's available, and then some of the really fun content that we've already shot with it. I do have, can you grab that for me? I'm using Blake as an assistant today. He's so nice. I also have this for you. So each of the podcast guests this year.
Oh, awesome.
Are going to get a little tumbler from Orca.
That'll get use.
And then it's really nice, actually. It's not sponsored by Orca at all, but they're just cool because it has like the golf ball look. But they hold ice for like 2 days. It's awesome.
It is. This is so great.
I have another brand that doesn't work that well, and there's some like little golf balls and tees in there and stuff too, which I know you're the last person that needs golf balls.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, that's it for this one, guys. Stay tuned for the next. I have no idea who that guest is going to be, but we'll figure it out.